And welcome to the Rob Call Bottom Up Show, available on all kinds of different sources from YouTube and Progressive Radio Network and iTunes and Stitcher and at opednews.com/podcasts. My guest for this show is Greg Palast. He's the investigative reporter for The Guardian, BBC Television, Democracy Now! And Rolling Stone, who broke the story of how George Bush stole Florida in 2000 by purging thousands of innocent black voters. He's the author of 4 New York Times bestsellers, including The Best Democracy Money Can Buy and Billionaires and Ballot Bandits. He's also studied economics under Milton Friedman. His newest book is How Trump Stole 2020. So we're a couple days outside after the election. What's your take on what happened? How did your predictions pan out? And what are your analysis of how Trump stole 2020 and how the Republicans did it too? Because that's really what your book also talks about.
Well, of course, how Trump stole 2020 is not a prediction. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's a warning about what happens if we don't steal it back. Because the main trick that these guys used was ethnic cleansing of the voter rolls in Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina. That's the story of this election, and our exposure. I won't take all the credit here, or even pieces. When I exposed this, I issued a report for the ACLU of Georgia saying that 198,351 voters had been illegally removed from the voter rolls, including Martin Luther King's 92-year-old cousin. 50 years voting in the same voting station. By the way, I just got word. Our campaign has had a hell of an effect. It's not just with the ACLU, but with the group getting out there and reaching out to these voters who were illegally removed in Georgia. Black Voters Matter. Latasha Brown, Cliff Albright, they took my list when we found all these illegal voters, and they sent out 98,000 big, colorful postcards. You've been removed from the voter rolls. Re-register. The Southern Poverty Law Center made thousands of phone calls to get people back on the voter rolls. Again, this is not the Democratic Party. God forbid they should give a damn about what happens to black voters. No, that's not too interesting then. But that's the point, is that it's not about electing Biden or anyone else. It's about letting voters vote. But of course, if all the voters vote, Americans aren't that stupid, or most people do the right thing most of the time, and they can't steal all the votes all the time. So the story of this election is busting the steal. And there's no question. I mean, we also did a report for Black Voters Matter on Wisconsin and successfully blocked the purge of 129,000 voters. Imagine, Bob, if those 129,000 voters that they're about to illegally remove in Wisconsin had been removed from the rolls, almost every one of them either a Black or Hispanic person in Milwaukee or a student in Madison. That's almost the entire list.
Well, you've been at this for over 20 years.
It would have been a different outcome.
Fighting for election integrity, fighting to get people the right to vote. It looks like this was the year when you really got listened to, and I congratulate you. It's fabulous, and it's about time. God.
Well, it took a while, but yes. So we're, I know I almost feel a little bit worried about getting a little bit mainstream, because I worry about whether, the point is being an investigative reporter means by definition being an outsider, especially in America. But I got to tell you, backing ACLU, Black Voters Matter, and the rest, we still have the problem with mainstream media being very reluctant to deal with these matters of racial vote suppression. And after all, I mean, who do you have on places like MSNBC, the people that, that argued for George Bush in the count when they stole the election for black people in Florida in 2000? If you remember,
And you've got Chuck Todd, the head of their political section, who argued against the idea that there was such a thing as election theft. He literally mocked it as a conspiracy theory.
In fact, one of the things I'm very, very worried about this election, something bad came out of it. And here's there's a few things. Well, one, some of the racial suppression continues. I can tell you right now, like I say, they removed 198,000 people illegally from the voter rolls of Florida. A lot of those people got their vote back through our massive campaign of exposing this matter. In fact, we still have a demand which could lead to another federal lawsuit. We won one already against the Secretary of State of Florida, Brad Raffin's perjure. His name really is Perjure. And to look at our evidence, to just simply put the people back. He wouldn't. So because of that, John Ossoff is in a runoff, and not because he wouldn't have won the majority of Georgia votes if they're allowed to vote. But again, Jim Crow had a huge impact here. It wasn't enough to save the Donald, but
Well,
it may save Mitch McConnell. So I'm very, very worried. And I'm also, the negative thing is not only people are going to go to sleep. We saw this in 2008, Bob. Barack Obama got elected. I said that there's massive voter suppression in America. Millions of votes of people of color, young people, are being blocked illegally. And everyone went to sleep. Well, and Obama's lying to us. By the way, when I was at Rolling Stone, we did reach him. And he said, look, he knew all about the theft of the vote. But his view was, okay, they stole 5.8 million votes from me and I got 9 million more voters, just overwhelmed the steal. And I understand that. As a practical matter, they can't steal all the votes all the time. So the number one strategy, by the way, is simply overwhelm them, overwhelm the steal. But that's not comforting when you add to it the Democratic Party line, which continues, the MSDNC party line, which continues, is that there's no such thing as a rigged election in America. And that is freaking false. George Bush was not elected in 2000. He was put in office by a racial electoral coup d'etat. These people are saying, I can't believe it. You got Steve Schmidt and Ms. Wallace saying, oh, this is, how dare Donald Trump try to stop the vote count in Pennsylvania, try to stop the vote count in Georgia and Arizona and Nevada. Well, let me tell you, who created that precedent? Those same people, including 3 of Bush's lawyers on the Supreme Court, who stopped the count of the vote when Bush was ahead by 537,000 votes. They left 100. What people know about the 500 vote difference that elected Bush, but they think he actually won by a small margin. That's not true. They stopped the vote count. In the face of a Florida Supreme Court ruling that says count all the damn votes. They left 178,000 votes on the table, 178,000 votes, mostly out of Jacksonville and Miami, Democratic cities. Bush was not elected. It was stolen by stopping the vote count. The Supreme Court reached.
Could it still happen now? Trump has all these Supreme Court appointees, and Clarence Thomas and Alito will do anything he asks. Could it still happen now with Joe Biden?
I think likely not, but can it? You're asking me. Let's crack that open. Can it happen? Absolutely. The Bush v. Gore precedent is there, that you can stop a vote count if you claim that that's it. Time's up. Vote fraud. We can't count the ballots. Blah blah.
That's what Trump's trying to do.
And in fact, Bush has sent in a team to Pennsylvania to try to convince the Republican legislature, and they'll probably try this in Wisconsin and Michigan.
Bush or Trump
as well? Excuse me. Trump is going to try to convince legislatures to simply not certify the Biden election. Now, here's the trick. They don't have to certify that Trump is, why should I make a distinction? George Trump was the winner. Let's call him that. That George Trump, they're not going to say George Trump was the winner in Pennsylvania. They're not going to say that he was the winner in Georgia, but they could well say that there's too much fraud, too much confusion, and so we're not going to certify anyone. Now, understand, Trump won't get 270 votes in the Electoral College that way, but neither will Biden, in which case it goes to the House, and there's at least 26 delegations that are Republican controlled. It's one state, one vote, and they win. So all they have to do is convince one state legislature. Maybe they might have to convince 2 to say, oh, there's all this mail-in fraud. There's too much confusion. We don't know about these ballots. You heard Donnie Jr. The ballots came from Mars, the mail-in ballots. Sorry, Donnie, they don't actually sell stamps on Mars, so I doubt if they came from Mars. But they can convince the legislatures to not certify the
And in
vote.
Pennsylvania, there was already a big dispute that went twice to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and then the U.S. Supreme Court over some of these decisions. So
Well, the Supreme Court, by the way, in Pennsylvania, regarding Pennsylvania, if it just came down to Pennsylvania, I don't think it will. I think that Biden's going to, in the end, have a very comfortable margin. He's going to have Georgia. He's going to have Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. It's over. Okay. And the court, you know, they're political animals.
we're having this conversation Friday afternoon, by the way, because
Friday afternoon. And, like I say, there's still a chance that Trump can convince legislatures not to certify the vote. Remember, under Article 2 of the Constitution, and I want people, if you want more information on this, at gregpalast.com, there's a 4-minute explanation of how 3 ways that Trump could still win the presidency with me and Tom Hartman. And one of them is exactly what Trump is doing. We said he would try what's called an Article 2 gambit. Now, Article 2 of the Constitution says that the state legislatures pick your electors. Now, I bet you thought, we all know we don't actually vote for president. We vote for electors. No, you don't even vote for electors, you poor schmucks. You vote. Your vote is purely advisory. America does not have a democracy. We give advice to each state legislature, and the legislatures then determine which electors go to the electoral college.
If they betray Biden, that's called faithless electors.
No, that's if the legislature says that Trump won, and you vote for Biden because you're saying, well, I'm going with the vote of the people, you're the faithless elector. And by the way, people misunderstand this law. The Supreme Court never said, because it would be deadly, completely, absolutely on its face unconstitutional. Electors are not bound to anyone ever for any reason. Okay. And the Supreme Court never changed that. What the Supreme Court said is that a state can punish an elector who defies not the voters' will, but the legislature's will. And therefore, for example, like in Oregon, the case was, can an elector, if they don't vote for the winner in the state or the choice of the legislature, it's again the choice of the legislature, not the voters. If an elector defies the legislature, they can be fined. They can even be imprisoned because that's up to the state. But they can't be directed who to vote for. They can be punished for not doing what the legislature wants, but they can't be stopped, because the whole point of the Electoral College, according to Madison, was that, that they have to be able to take a look at the presidential candidates and say, that guy just isn't qualified. I'm not voting for him. That was one of the supposed ideas for this crazy relic we call the U.S. Constitution. By the way, when do we learn the Constitution?
This is a top-down idea that they're smarter than the people. That's
right. So we need smart guys. There has to be really smart guys, because the people can be stupid, and the people can be stupid, but I think the electors can be stupider.
No, my experience of being involved in politics is the people are smarter, and the people who are in politics are arrogant and think they're smarter, and they're wrong. Now, one last question, and then we got to wrap. There's a runoff for two spots for the Senate in Georgia.
Yes.
And they stole almost 200,000 seats, or they disenfranchised them. Can that be fixed between now and January when they hold that election?
Absolutely. First of all, the lawyers for the Palast Investigative Fund have filed a notice. There's 90 days that and it's tough because they have time to do this. We have filed a formal notice of a federal lawsuit with the Secretary of State. If they don't sit down and put these people back on, we're offering them the names and addresses of every voter that they've wrongly removed, including Martin Luther King's cousin, including Ashley Jones, a Latina who showed up with her kids to vote and was thrown out. I was there. I have these people on film. So we do have telling the Secretary of State he's got to put these people back, or at least what he's got to do is look at our evidence. I'm not even telling him he's got to do what we want. I'm saying, look at our evidence. You must. It's the law requires it. You've used a wrong, illegal method for removing voters. You're dead wrong. He claimed these people moved when they haven't. So now I will say, through a massive exposure of this con, A lot of those, tens of thousands of those people have now been re-registered. Black Voters Matter sent out 98,000 postcards. Southern Poverty Law Center made thousands of calls. We have publicized it. The ACLU put out the word. They put out our
Well,
investigation.
let's hope that it continues to make it better, and by January, totally eliminates the problem. Got to wrap. My guest for this part of the show has been Greg Palast. He's an investigative reporter who's been with The Guardian, BBC, Democracy Now!, and Rolling Stone. His website is gregpalast.com, and his book is How Trump Stole 2020. And I think this also applies to stealing the winning of the Senate and the loss of a big chunk of the House.
You bet. And today you can go to gregpalast.com and download How Trump Stole 2020. Now to prevent it, the steal, you can get the audiobook, the comic book, and the ebook all for free this week.
Thanks
Our donation to democracy.
You're a hero, and it might have been you and your work that really help the world flush Trump down the toilet.
I just want people to vote. That I'm serious, Bob. I'm really nonpartisan, but if people vote, it doesn't turn out too bad, does it?
No, that's right.
Okay.
Thanks again. It's great to have you back.